Hello, good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to Introduction to Literature class, and this material is made or is created for the fourth semester student of English Department in UIN Professor Kiai Haji Saifuddin Zuhri Purwokerto. And today in this meeting, we are going to try to do some analysis of poetry. Okay, so today we are going to try to do analysis of a poetry and how to do analysis for poetry. Well, when we are discussing about poetry, then we are going to do the analysis of a poetry, and there are something that you need to write it down when you are analyzing a poetry. First of all, what you need to write it down is the form, and also structure. When we talk about form and also structure, then we are actually talking about what about the stanza of the poetry, how many lines in the poetry, what about the rhymes, and also the rhythm of the poetry. That's the first thing that we need to do when we are analyzing the poetry. Now let's try to do the analysis of the poetry together so that you are going to be able to see the analysis. Okay, so here is the form of the analysis, and in the right side, I hope you can see, on the right side is the poetry itself. Okay, the poetry is actually from Robert Frost, and he is an American poet, and the poetry is entitled Nothing Gold Can Stay. Before we analyze the meaning further about this poetry, we need to look at the poetry, the form, and also the structure of the poetry itself. For example, here, how many stanza in this poetry? Okay, yeah, there is only one stanza in this poetry, so you can write it down here. Jadi kalian bisa menuliskan di sebelah sini. So here we can write it down that this poetry consists of one stanza. How many lines in this stanza? Berapa line? Sorry. This poetry consists of, or this poem consists of. Kalian bisa menuliskannya seperti itu. This poem consists of one stanza. What is happening? Of one stanza. How many lines in this poem? Let's count the poem here. Wait a minute. Let me grab it here. Okay. How many lines in this stanza? Let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And 8. So you can write it down here. How many lines in one stanza? The poem is divided. The poem consists of one stanza, and each stanza consists of in the stanza, atau kalian bisa menuliskan karena ini hanya ada satu stanza. In the stanza, it consists of 8 lines. Now you look at the lines, kalian lihatlah linesnya, kemudian it consists of 8 lines. Jadi kalau 8 line itu kira-kira dia bisa saja couplet, bisa saja quatrain. What do you think? Nature first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold, her early leaves a flower, but only so for an hour. Then leaves subside to leaf, so Eden sank to grief, so down goes down to day, nothing gold can stay. If you look at the poetry here, you can see that this is a couplet. Why this is a couplet? this is the couplet, right? Like the poetry is divided into two lines, right? You can see from the rhyme. Kalian bisa melihatnya dari rimanya, right? So, so this is couplet. So you can also write it down here that in the stanza it consists of 8 lines, which is divided into couplets. What about the rhyme? Bagaimana dengan rimanya? How about the rhyme? Let me clear this one first. Okay, what about the rhyme? Now look at the line one by one. Nature's first green is gold. Let's say this is A. What about the second one? Her hardest hue to hold. Again, this is A. Look at the next one. Her early leaves a flower. So it means it's B. But only so an hour. Again, it is B. Look at another one. Then leaves subside to leaf. Different. So we have to write it down C. So Eden sang to grape. Same. So down goes down today. This is another rhyme. Nothing gold can stay. So we can write it down in the rhyme here. It is divided into couplet and the rhyme is AA, BB, then CC, and TD. That what you can write it down here. Jadi itu yang bisa kalian tuliskan dalam ya. Ya, seperti ini ya jadinya ya. Wait a minute. Okay, so we already finished with the form and structure. Oh, wait a minute, we haven't talked about the rhythm. What about the rhythm? If it's slow, it is natural, like nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold, her early leaves a flower, but only so an hour. So the rhythm here, we can also say that the rhythm, rimanya itu ternyata dia adalah simple. So the rhyme here is simple. You can write it down there. Simple. It actually divided into several, but it is also not too slow, not too fast. Yeah, that's the first thing. You have finished with the form and structure of the poetry. So when you need to analyze a poetry, you need to say about the form and also the structure of what's the poetry by looking at how many stanza the poetry consists of, how many lines each stanza consists, and what about the rhyme, and also about the rhythm. All right, so now what next? What do we need to look at after we look at the form and also the structure? The next thing that we need to look at is that the sound device that is being used in the poetry there, which means we are talking about alliteration. Alliteration, what is it? Alliteration is the repetition of the consonant sound in the beginning of the word, and you can see alliteration, for example. So this is the repetition of the consonant sound in the beginning of each word, and that you can see in one lines of a poetry. Jadi catatannya alliteration itu adalah suara konsonan di awal kata yang diulang dan dia ditemukan dalam satu line atau satu baris, ya. Let's see from the picture here, from the poetry here. Nature's first green is gold. What do you think? Ada nggak yang kata suara konsonan yang diulang di awal kata? Okay, we can see nature's first green is gold. Green and gold is an alliteration. Green, green here. Okay, wait a minute. Yeah, green and gold, G and G. All right, so you already find the alliteration in the first line. Nature first green is gold. So green and gold is an alliteration. So alliteration is the repetition of the consonant sound in the beginning of the word. And you can find that in one line. So here we can write it down in alliteration. Green and gold. Kalian juga bisa menuliskan in which line? Oh, line 1. Okay, what else that you can find the alliteration in this poetry? Well, there are so many actually. You can see her hardest hue to hold. It's started with the same consonant H, right? Yeah, this is also another alliteration. Let's see another one. What about the lime tree? Her early leaves a flower. Oh, there is no alliteration here, but only so an hour. No? Yeah. Then leaf subside to live. There is no alliteration there. So Eden sang to grieve. So Eden sang to grieve. So and sang. Can we use that? Yes, this is also another alliteration. So down goes down today. Down, 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 and day. This is also another example of alliteration. Nothing gold can stay. So you can write it down, all of the alliteration here, like green and gold, and then her hardest, and then hue and hold, right? Kalian bisa menuliskan lainnya, kemudian so and sang, and then down, down, and also day. Ini adalah alliteration-nya. Jadi kalian sudah menemukan alliteration-nya. Ya. What about the assonant? First of all, what is assonant? Assonant is the repetition of the same vowel either in the beginning, in the middle, or in the end of the word that you can find in one line. Jadi kalian menemukan vowel atau suara vowel yang digunakan secara bersamaan, baik itu di awal, di tengah, maupun di akhir kata dalam satu baris. Contohnya, her hardest, ya, her and also hardest. Her hardest hue to hold. Ini yang merupakan assonant adalah konsonan, the vowel e. Sebentar. The vowel e. Yang vowel e. Let me use this. Okay. The vowel e here and hardest. Nah, ini adalah di her sama hardest itu adalah assonant. Jadi kalian bisa menemukan di situ her early leaf a flower. Sebenarnya ini yang assonant adalah her early and flower. Jadi itu adalah assonantnya. But only so an hour. O and so. Sama nggak? Only, o, and so. Different, beda. Ya. Then leave subside to live. Juga tidak ada. So Eden sang to grieve. So down goes down. Go down. Sebenarnya ini bisa di sini. Dan di sini ini adalah assonance today. Ya. Jadi kalau assonant, kalau alliteration tadi yang dilihat adalah huruf konsonannya atau suara konsonannya. Tapi kalau assonant adalah suara atau huruf vokalnya yang diulang. Gitu ya. Jadi kalian bisa menuliskan, oh assonannya di sini adalah dalam, ya suara itu bisa kalian tuliskan seperti dalam, in, her, and hardest. Line 2. Nah, kalian bisa menuliskannya seperti itu. Kemudian, what about consonant? Consonant is the repetition of the consonant sound in the middle of the word. Jadi kalau alliteration adalah pengulangan suara konsonan di awal kata, tapi kalau konsonan adalah pengulangan suara konsonan di tengah-tengah kata. Ada nggak di sini? No, they don't have it. Mereka di puisi ini tidak ada contoh konsonan. Jadi kalau tidak ada konsonan, you can write that down 0. And then next is that repetition. Ada nggak yang di-repeat atau diulang? Coba kalian lihat. Ada. Ya, yang di-repeat adalah kata live and also live. This one. Oke, jadi kalian bisa menuliskan live and also live. Nah, khusus untuk repetition, ini bisa bisa kalian temukan meskipun dia beda line. Jadi ini adalah line ke 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kemudian ada lagi so and also so. Ini line so and so. This is line 6 and also 7. Right? We can write it down like this. Is there any onomatopoeia in this poetry? What is onomatopoeia? The word that is represent the natural sound. For example, the word for knocking the door, then knock, knock, knock. Yeah. Or the word of the word for the sound dog, for example, itu menjadi woo 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 for the sound. Weep 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 represent that someone is crying. So that is onomatopoeia. So the word that represent the sound of nature. Okay, next you already finished with the sound devices. Then you can write, you already finished with the forms and also structure and also the sound device. The next one that you need to look at from the poetry is that what about the figurative language that is being used in the poetry? The figurative language can include simile. What is simile? Simile is the comparison between one thing to the other thing, and usually it will be marked with the word as or like. Let me give you example. Your cheek is as red as rose. Oh, pipi kalian semerah bunga mawar. Atau the ruby is red as the ruby as red as blood. Oh, ruby itu semerah darah. Gitu ya. And our diamond as blue as heaven. Okay, so you already finished with the form and also structure of the poem, and then also the sound devices that is being used in the poem. Now we are going to focus with the figurative language, and I already discussed with you that the first figurative language is that simile. It is the comparison between one thing to the other, and usually using the word as or like. For example, you are as beautiful as the moon, or your beauty like the sunshine. Itu adalah contoh dari simile. Meanwhile, the other type of figurative language is that, of course, personification. I believe you already know. So personification is that you are treating something that is non-human with the characteristic of human. For example, the leaf is dancing with the rhythm. The leaf is non-human, but you are treating them as a human with the word dancing. That is personification. And then you have metaphor. It is also comparison between one thing to the other. But here there is no sign or the word as or like. Jadi kalau yang simile itu tadi komparasi, tetapi ada kata as dan juga like. Tetapi kalau metafor itu tidak. Jadi menyamakan satu hal dengan hal yang lain, which is very different. Ya. And then other than metaphor, you also have allusion. Allusion is referring to previous word. Jadi mentioning certain person or certain places or even certain text. Jadi kalau allusion itu adalah referring to the other previous reference. Let's see the figurative language that is being used by Robert Frost in this poetry. Is there any simile in this poem? Let me. Nature first green is gold, her hardest who to hold, her early leaves a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaves subside to leave, so Eden sang to grief, so down goes down today, nothing gold can stay. Okay, adakah personification here? No, there is no personification here. Yeah, sang. Eden sang to grief. Maybe you can say, oh, maybe personificationnya adalah so Eden sang to grief. Tenggelam, tetapi tenggelam itu juga tidak merujuk pada manusia saja ya. So we cannot really say that the line so Eden sang to grief is personification here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we cannot find the personification. What about simile? Ada nggak yang menggunakan kata as dan like? Nggak ada. Oke. Similinya juga tidak ada. What about metaphor? You are referring something to the other thing. There is a metaphor here. Look at the title first. Nothing gold can stay. Nothing gold can stay. Oh, nggak ada sesuatu yang tidak ada emas pun yang bisa yang abadi. Can stay itu abadi. Kita lihat line yang pertama. Nature's first green is gold. Nature's first green here refers to in European countries, there will be 4 seasons, including summer, spring, winter, and autumn. So nature's first green here refers to the season in which when is the nature's blooming or the flowers blooming. When was it? A springtime. So nature's first green is gold. Jadi di sini Robert Frost menggunakan metaphor gold to represent spring. So you can write it down here. Metafornya adalah nature first green. Nature's first green, which is also spring. Metafornya compare to gold. What do we mean by that? So the writer here is actually want to say that the time when the spring comes is very beautiful as gold. Very beautiful as gold. Very valuable as gold. Jadi karena gold atau emas itu kan pasti representasinya atau meaningnya adalah cantik, indah, dan juga berharga. So very, very valuable and also very beautiful. Her hardest who to hold, her early leaves a flower. Bahkan di sini ada lagi yang dikomparakan di sini. Her early leaf, early leaf. Early leaf itu sama juga dengan flower, disamakan dengan flower. Her early leaves a flower. Oh, dia ingin mengatakan bahwa di saat spring, bahkan daun yang tumbuh pertama kali di pohon itu indahnya seperti bunga. Gitu ya. Indahnya secantik bunga. Dia ingin mengatakan demikian. But look at the line here. But only so an hour. Tetapi hanya berlangsung sekejap saja. It only 1 hour. So we can see here in the in the first quatrain of this poetry, we can see that what Robert Frost wants to say is that even though the spring is very beautiful with the blooming flower, which is very valuable to hold to see, but this gold is only lasts very temporarily. Jadi kita sudah menemukan satu clue sebenarnya bahwa tidak ada sesuatu yang indah itu yang abadi. There is nothing that is last forever. That's the main idea of the first quatrain, right? So that's the figurative language. Metafornya ada nature first green, springnya dikomparakan dengan gold. Now let's look at the other figurative language that is being used in this poetry. Then leaf subside to leaf. Oh, kemudian daun digantikan dengan daun lagi. Leaf subside the leaf. It also represents to life. compare to life, that people also like this, like people are being born, growing up, becoming an adult, becoming old, and then finally they will die, and then it will be subside or it will be changed by the new generation. So live subside to live di sini dia merujuk pada life, the cycle of life, the cycle of life. Jadi ada this one, it's like the cycle of life, ya. So the live subside to live itu merujuk pada oh ya ternyata manusia itu hidup juga cuman sebentar, so we only live very temporarily. That's why one generation is being changed to the other generation. It is metaphorically compared to live subside to live. Jadi daun digantikan dengan daun. Oh hijau kemudian berubah menjadi kuning, berubah menjadi merah, dan kemudian jatuh dan digantikan dengan daun yang baru. Itu representasinya adalah dengan siklus hidup manusia. Ya. Kemudian let's look at the next line. So Eden sang to grief. Eden di sini adalah merujuk pada Garden of Eden, yang merujuk pada paradise. Paradise kalau di Islam berarti memang surga Eden, ya. Itu. So Eden here kita bisa melihatnya sebagai allusion. Tadi saya sudah menyebutkan bahwa allusion refers to biblical reference. Kenapa allusion? Karena di sini Eden ini merujuk pada referensi dari Bible atau juga dari scripture, atau di Islam juga ada, yaitu in Holy Quran. So Eden sang to grief, Edennya itu merujuk pada surga, ya. So what he want to say is that he is saying something that is beautiful is only last for an hour or very temporarily. He also want to say that Eden, that is previously very beautiful in the memory of Adam and also Eve, when they came down to the earth, they gradually forgetting about the beauty of Eden. So what is beautiful in Eden is temporarily changed right now. So that's why so down goes down today. Jadi bahkan fajar yang indah dengan warna jingga dan lain sebagainya itu juga hanya last for a minute saja. Itu hanya berlangsung sekejap saja, kemudian digantikan dengan siang, sinar matahari. Kemudian the sunrise is very beautiful, tetapi itu hanya beberapa menit saja, kemudian digantikan dengan panas matahari yang terik. So what he want to say is that nothing gold can say. Nothing that is beautiful is last forever. So nothing gold can stay here is not only represent about gold cannot stay very longer. Kalau kalian lihat, kalau kalian pernah beli emas, itu pasti awalnya kuning, tapi lama-lama mungkin bisa berubah menjadi agak kemerahan. Kalau misalnya, ya agak kemerahan, atau bahkan kalau emasnya itu karatnya sedikit bisa agak memutih. Nah, itu yang ingin dia katakan di sini, bahwa nothing lasts forever, tidak ada yang abadi di dunia ini. Bahkan secantik-cantiknya manusia pun, dia hanya last very temporarily. Kalau pas muda dia cantik, tetapi ketika tua kan kemudian sudah berubah lagi. So what he want to say is that nothing that is beautiful last forever, or everything is only temporary. Jadi kita sudah bisa menuliskan temanya di sini bahwa there is nothing lasts forever. Everything that is beautiful is just temporary. Here's the theme or the main idea that actually the writer want to convey. Jadi kita sudah menuliskan, oh ya temanya apa, gitu ya. And it is also related to the general meaning. Dan ini juga bisa kalian jelaskan lagi di general meaning. Oh ya, so the meaning of the poetry is that it actually talk about something that is beautiful, cannot last forever. For example, the season changes every time, and then the flowers is also changing. The beauty of the flower is only last for an hour, then leaf subside to leaf, And then down also goes down today, therefore nothing gold can say. Itu bisa kalian jelaskan di general meaningnya. Kemudian what about the tone? The tone is actually serious, you can say here. Moodnya is serious, but it is not sad, it is not happy also, but it is serious. What about the imagery that you can find in this poetry? So the imagery that you can find here is that, look at the description of the poetry. Is it using the five senses? Apakah five senses yang mana yang digunakan untuk mendeskripsikan puisi di sini? Nature's first green is gold, her hardest to hold, her early leaves of flower. Itu kan semuanya bisa dilihat. So the imagery that we can see here is sight, something that we can see. Ada nggak yang didengar? Oh tidak ada. Ternyata semuanya yang dapat kita lihat, yang nampak, atau yang everything that we can see through our eyes that we consider as beautiful is only lasts for an hour. Is only temporary. There's nothing lasts forever. So don't choose something only based on the cover, but also look at the deeper meaning if you want to choose a book. Yeah. So that's how you analyze a poetry. And after this, I want you to analyze another poetry by Robert Frost, and I want you to do the same or similar analysis by looking at the form and also the structure, the sound device that is being used, and then what about the figurative language that is being used in that poetry, what about the imagery, what about the tone and mood of the poetry, the theme, and also you can write it down, the general meaning of the poetry based on your analysis. And here is the poetry that you need to analyze. The title is Fire and Ice. And what you need to analyze is similar. Like what you need to analyze is the including form and structure, sound device, figurative language, imagery, tone and mood, theme, and also the general meaning. Please write it down, your analysis of this poetry in a piece of paper, and then please submit your analysis in the Google Classroom that I going to upload in your class. If you have further question about how to analyze a poetry, feel free to write it down your question in the comment below. And for the next meeting, which means next week, we are going to have the midterm exam. There will be 3 questions in the midterm exam, and we are going to conduct the midterm exam offline. The first question will be related to literature in general. The second question will be related to the history of English literature randomly. It will include, like, for example, the characteristic of literature in every period. For example, mention or explain the characteristic of literary features during the Romantic period. So it will be random with either from Old to Middle English, Renaissance period, Romantic period, Victorian period, and also the modern age. So please read about the material about that. And also the last question will be related to poetry analysis. So you are going to be given a poetry and you are going to analyze the poetry like what you are going to do like this. So you are going to analyze the form and structure, the sound device, figurative language, imagery, tone, theme, and general meaning. Okay, that's all I think for the today's material. Thank you very much for listening. See you again and ciao.